In August 1793, the French Republic was betrayed from within. Toulon, the nation's most vital deep-water naval base, opened its harbor and willingly surrendered to enemy forces. Handing over Toulon meant surrendering the entire French Mediterranean fleet. Ships, cannons, and dockyards all transferred to hostile control in a single stroke. Losing this harbor threatened to suffocate the revolution entirely. Two naval commanders eagerly seized the prize: Vice Admiral Lord Hood of the British Royal Navy and Admiral Don Juan de Langara of the Spanish Navy. Securing the landward defenses were Prince Frederick of Hesse-Philippsthal, along with the French royalist admiral who brokered the betrayal, Count Trogoff. They rapidly established a formidable order of battle. A mixed garrison of 20,000 coalition troops occupied the city, heavily reinforced by elite contingents of British Marines. Looking at the primary infantry firearms carried by these forces, we see the standard British Brown Bass musket and the Spanish Model 1757. By contrast, the French royalist defectors inside relied on aging Charleville muskets pulled from older arsenals. To counter this, the Republic massed 37,000 troops. Yet under the initial command of Jean-François Carteau, this massive force suffered from complete tactical incompetence. A vast infantry advantage yields nothing against fortified walls backed by naval superiority. To break the coalition, the Republic needed a siege strategy capable of sinking an armed fleet from the shoreline. That strategy arrived at the Republican encampment in the form of a 24-year-old artillery major named Napoleon Bonaparte. To understand his cognitive framework at this moment, we look to his 1793 political pamphlet, Le Souper de Beaucaire. As historian Christopher Frayling notes, the pamphlet's vocabulary is revealing. Bonaparte discusses military axioms and artillery details as professional opinions. He viewed the conflict not through revolutionary ideology, but as a strict mathematical equation of force, angle, and timing. Contrast that mindset with weapons issued to Republican ground troops. Here is the briquet saber, a short, curved weapon typical for infantry in close combat, and the cavalry's sabre de cavalerie légère modèle D1767. These weapons demanded immediate physical proximity to the enemy. Bonaparte's core military thesis was simple: charging heavily armed forts with sabers and standard muskets will never dislodge an entrenched naval armada. This diagram illustrates his chosen instruments of geometry, the Gribeval artillery system. Bonaparte reorganized the 4, 8, and 12-pounder cannons along with mortars and howitzers, turning them into precise tools of destruction. Where Carteau saw warfare as a test of blind zeal and frontal infantry charges, Bonaparte treated the battlefield as an engineering problem waiting to be solved. This 18th century map details Toulon's complex geography. Notice the densely fortified perimeters protecting the harbor for the king's ships. In September 1793, Carteau directed poorly coordinated frontal assaults against these impassable walls. Under Doppet, the siege stagnated further, trapping Republican forces in a bloody stalemate. This topographical model visualizes Bonaparte's plan. Abandoning the city walls, he focused on two strategic harbor heights, Laguillette and Balaguillette. The geometry dictated that cannons placed here could fire at a downward trajectory, plunging iron directly through the anchored British fleet. In November, command finally shifted to General Jacques-François Dugommier. Dugommier made a crucial leadership decision. He set aside his own ego and fully adopted his 24-year-old major's artillery strategy. The Republican troops began rapid, exhaustive construction, hauling heavy guns up the muddy hills to establish new emplacements. Only one major coalition obstacle stood in their way: Fort Mulgrave, a position so heavily fortified the British dubbed it Little Gibraltar. Modern archaeological excavations around the Toulon naval dockyards validate the precision of this operation. Surveys have uncovered cannonballs, musket parts, and the remains of scuttled ships that physically align with Bonaparte's documented firing solutions. This topographical pivot stripped a coalition of its naval advantage. The untouchable fleet was now a static target trapped in a geographic bowl. By late November, the intense Republican artillery bombardment commenced, shaking the earth as the batteries opened fire on the enemy. Here is the tactical grid showing the overlapping firing arcs of the 12-pounders, methodically pounding Allied fortifications. High-angle mortars fired over the defenses, raining explosive shells directly into coalition trench lines. Outer redoubts were slowly reduced to rubble, stripping Fort Mulgrave of its support. Maintaining this intensity required an immense logistical supply chain, keeping Bonaparte's batteries fed with ammunition day and night without interruption. Bonaparte personally directed the fire. He applied the cold, single-minded logic of his Beaucaire pamphlet directly to the chaos of real-time combat. Out on the water, the structural integrity of the British and Spanish ships rapidly deteriorated. The harbor itself had become a continuous kill zone. Prince Frederick of Hesse-Philippsthal made desperate attempts to reinforce the crumbling landward defenses, but the endless barrage outpaced his efforts. The Republican infantry now readied themselves to charge. They prepared to assault an enemy whose heavy guns had already been systematically neutralized. The weeks of meticulous, mathematical bombardment had predetermined the battle's outcome long before a single bayonet was fixed. On December 17, 1793, the Republicans launched a massive infantry assault against the muddy ruins of Fort Mulgrave. The capture of Little Gibraltar was executed by the infantry, but it succeeded only because Bonaparte's artillery had already shattered the fort's defensive capacity. The immediate domino effect took hold the following day. Republican cannons were wheeled up to the newly secured heights, staring directly down at the fleet. Vice Admiral Lord Hood recognized the checkmate. He wrote in a dispatch, "The place could no longer be held with honor." Hood saw that the geometry was flawless. The enemy batteries commanded the air above the ships, rendering the harbor completely untenable. A panicked coalition evacuation began. To prevent the French fleet from falling back into Republican hands, British and Spanish forces set fire to the docked warships. Thousands of terrified French royalists crowded the docks, fleeing their own country alongside the retreating Allied armadas. On December 19th, General Dugommier sent a triumphant message to the convention. The great arsenal of France had been returned to the Republic. The flawless execution of this siege had immediate consequences. The 24-year-old major was promoted directly to brigadier general. Toulon proved Bonaparte's observation that without artillery, armies are blind and defenseless. By solving a static siege with geometric precision, he established the mathematical approach to warfare he would soon apply across Europe.